Occasionally, I will reach a point in the day where I've had so much coffee, I am jittery and hard to talk to and borderline irritable. You might be feeling the same way if you're thinking about, oh my gosh, what is happening with the housing market? You're stressed out, you're irritable, amped up, overcaffeinated. Well, we're here to de-stress some of that and give you the real details of what's happening in the real estate market in Tacoma and Olympia.
So would you say we're going to give everybody a cup of chamomile tea instead of coffees?
Yeah, we might be switching to decaf because it is not as bad as what people are saying in the national media. And we're Joe and Charity, we're local realtors, and we help people just like you every week who are trying to make informed decisions about moving to the Puget Sound area.
So today we are going to break down this current market, why sellers are starting to feel desperate, why buyers are starting to act like sharks, and everything in between.
Now, when people think about like sharks and nervous, they're thinking about like, oh my gosh, things must be going poorly. Well, that's the confusing part. When we look at the data and the actual numbers, you could look at numbers and think, oh, that's huge, that's astronomical. And really in context, it's actually still sellers markets numbers. The reason Charity mentions that is because inventory has been rising over the last several years. And once again, it is going up. However, in context, it's been rising from historic lows. I'm talking about 2 to 3 weeks of inventory, which is crazy low. Basically, there's not enough houses to be sold in the time frame that they're coming to the market. Now, what a balanced market usually is between 4 and 6 months, and that's depending on who you talk to. But currently in Tacoma and Olympia, we have roughly 2.5 months of inventory. So we're still well below a buyer's market. However, because we haven't experienced this in a while, it makes sellers nervous and buyers get a little excited because they're thinking, oh, there's got to be some great values. Now, there always are in any market, but that's usually why people are coming to these conclusions of being nervous or overzealous.
Let's break down the numbers. In Olympia, now this isn't the greater Thurston County area, Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater, we're just focusing on Olympia here. We're at 422 homes on the market. Now that's actually up 33% from last year. So definitely a lot more options. But one of the reasons for that is that houses are sitting on the market longer than usual. So back in the day, when Joe was referring to only having 2 weeks of inventory, houses were gone in 5 days. They weren't on the market anymore. Not that there's so many newer houses hitting the market, they're just piling up a little bit because they're not selling as fast. And in Tacoma, we have 722 homes on the market currently. Once again, that's not the greater Pierce County area, just Tacoma, and that's up 18% from last year.
Now, as Charity alluded to, homes are taking longer to sell, so new homes are coming to the market, causing that increase of inventory. So let's look specifically at the days on market.
In Olympia currently, the average days on market is 40, which is up about 11% from last year, so not a ton more. When you think about 40 days on market, it may seem like a lot compared to those unicorn years where it was 5 days on market, but historically, 40 days on market is not a very long time. In fact, if you look back at a graph over the last 10 or 15 years, you would see that there are times when it was actually even higher than that, and that wasn't necessarily during the crash.
Not at all.
Of 2008. It was just what was normal back then. But the problem is, and the reason why sellers are getting anxious is because they just don't remember. It hasn't been that way for a while. And so 40 days can seem like a really long time, even though it isn't. And for Tacoma's numbers, the average days on market is 32, and that's up about 10% from last year.
Now, days on market leads to pricing what a home sells for. So the price from when it's listed to where it sells obviously is going to have a decline in a market like this. There's very good reasons for that. We're going to cover it in a minute, but let's just go into the specifics about the two markets.
So the average sales price in Olympia right now is around $577,000. And surprisingly, that is 3.1% higher than last year. And along with that, an important number to look at is that homes are selling for approximately 97% of their list price. Joe's going to talk a little bit more about that, but let's get into Tacoma's numbers. Tacoma's average sales price is $546,000, and that's up 4.3%, and the homes there are selling on average for about 98% of their list price.
What you'll notice in those numbers is we have year-over-year increase in prices. However, there's longer days on market and a reduction in price. I think those are very interesting statistics to look at together. What they're basically telling us is clients are looking for aspirational prices, they're adjusting to market prices, and yet home prices are still going up year over year because there's still demand for the right home priced in the right area at the right price.
Another factor that plays into the price reductions is that, as I mentioned before, sellers get nervous when their house doesn't sell. Now, I've seen this over and over again. I sit down in an appointment with a client who wants to sell their home. I let them know that the average is 40 days on market. We talk about just the right price point to list their house on. And if it doesn't sell the second weekend, they're really nervous. And I have to remind them, we're not even close to 40 days on market. If we're gonna get there, it's just gonna take a while. Remember, we're right in the amount of days that it should take to sell your home.
Now, sometimes those price reductions have to do with affordability, specifically around interest rates, and sometimes concession sellers are making to help buy down rates for potential buyers. And that is truly what we're seeing. When we look at the interest rates and what they are today compared to what they were 4 or 5 years ago, they are twice as much. And that impacts your monthly mortgage payment, sometimes up to 25% higher than it was just a few short years ago. So affordability is one of the big obstacles that buyers are facing.
Yeah, in fact, we can take a look at the numbers here. If you were going to be buying a $600,000 home, putting 5% down and getting that 3.5% interest rate that was so great several years ago, your monthly payment is going to be around $3,000. Now, let's do that same house, same amount down, but do 6.5% interest. You're going to be paying $1,000 more a month, so around $4,000. Now, buyers are waiting and watching as the interest rates start to come down. It has started to happen in the last several weeks, but they're not all jumping in because I think everybody's still waiting. Even if we hit right in the middle of that, say we get down to 5%, we're going to hit right in the middle of that payment. So it's no longer $3,000 at 3.5%. It's no longer $4,000 at that 6.5%. We get to be around $3,500, which is going to make affordability so much better for buyers.
So let's get specific of what this means for buyers and sellers. Now, I want to start with sellers. So when we meet with our clients who are looking to sell their homes, there are some key things that we go over with them to make sure that they make informed decisions. Number one is the condition of the home. Curb appeal matters a lot, making sure that there's not deferred maintenance. And also, we help guide them through what upgrades they could use that's going to give them the highest return on their investment and help sell their home in the shortest amount of time possible. The next thing that we talk through with our clients is the pricing of the home for first weekend. We want to get as many views as possible. Now, honestly, a strategy that a lot of people still hold in their mind is they want to price high and then negotiate down. That strategy is one of the main problems why days on market increases and you end up seeing price reductions. That used to work years and years ago, which was pretty common. However, in today's market, especially coming out of the unicorn years, it is not how buyers think. It is actually works against our sellers in doing such a strategy. So if you're thinking about that, unfortunately, it's not a good strategy. We'll show you better ones when we meet together. And the next thing that we make sure that we cover anytime we're meeting with one of our clients is what the buyer's expectations are. Now, we're very grateful. We deal with a lot of clients every year, so we have a good understanding of what buyers are thinking at every price point, because ultimately, a buyer of a $400,000 home has a different expectation from a $600,000 to an $800,000 to our $1 million luxury clients. All of them have different perspectives, and each one of the homes they're looking at has different expectations for the seller. So when we meet together, we go over each different buyer's mindset at that price point to helping you have all the information you need to price your home correctly and get it sold for the most amount of money as possible.
So now let's talk about what all this means for buyers. Buyers, you know that you have an opportunity right now. You've been watching the market and you've been watching those price reductions that we've been talking about. But something you really need to know is not every seller has the option of continuing to go down, down, and down. Being wise in the offer that you put together is also really important during this market. You can't just go out and throw out a really low ball offer and ask for all your closing costs to be paid and expect a seller to happily accept your offer. It's painful. Imagine if you were in that situation. It's very painful to price your home, do a price reduction, and then be asked to take less for your home and to take seller concessions. And every time we strategize with our clients when we're writing an offer, we always make sure that we get as much information we can from the listing agent so that we can write an offer that makes the seller want to accept your offer and not just look away from it. The other thing to think about as a buyer is you do have more options now than you did a couple years ago, and you do have time to be patient. So you don't have to feel anxious about jumping on the house as soon as it comes on the market. You can go take a look, you can think about it, you can look at 5 or 6 properties, you can decide which one's going to be better for you, and and you don't have to be so rushed in making your decision. This is one of the best parts of being a buyer in this market right now.
Yeah, we thoroughly enjoy when we're working with our clients. Sometimes it does take 2 to 3 months to find the right home, and that is not a big deal. We do lots of video tours for our clients, showing them the different areas, giving them lots of feedback specifically down to the neighborhood and what it feels like. This actually is a very enjoyable time to work with buyers because maybe it does take a few months to find your right home, but that's not a big deal because we love helping our clients find the right home that fits for their situation and their future.
One of the other things that we always advise buyers to think about is, yes, you do have the opportunity to be patient like we talked about, but you also have some amazing opportunities. There are some sellers who have a lot of equity in their home and they need to do something differently, and they have reduced the price of their home to a point where it is really a good deal. We see some great deals out there, and man, I wish we could be snatching them all up because sometimes in this market particularly, there are some fantastic deals to be had.
Charity is really spot on this. Every week we see deals, whether it's in Tacoma or Olympia, where homes are selling below market value, truly below what they should be, and they sell within a day or two because the seller just wants to get out and move on, and somebody's getting a great value with instant equity. So it truly is a win-win for the seller needing to leave and a buyer getting a great value.
We do see sometimes that buyers don't take advantage of these opportunities because they're so focused on the interest rate. We have seen the interest rate starting to drop, as we said, and people are forward looking, feeling like if they continue to wait, and the interest rates drop more, then that's when they want to jump. But unfortunately, that seems to happen all at once. When everybody gets to that, oh my gosh, it's time, and then it happens where everybody rushes back into the market and the fear of missing out happens. That's when we start to see multiple offers happen, and that's when the prices start to raise again. So don't be afraid to jump in now with the interest rates as they've already come down. You can always refinance later, or you can take advantage of some unique opportunities to do like a 3-2-1 buy down or a 2-1 buy down where your interest rates can be lower for the first couple of years.
Regardless of where you're at, of whether you're selling or that you're buying, we never encourage anybody to rush into decisions. We want you to make a long-term good decision for you and for your family. That's what ultimately matters most to us. So if you're considering selling or buying in today's current market and you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us on the number below or jump on our calendar in the link in the description below, and we would love to talk to you about what other questions you might have.
If you've enjoyed this video, then keep watching because the next one is going to give you more insider information on this current market in the Puget Sound area.